Today's podcast is all about what I called Mission Armored. You're all familiar with what we call Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and all the adventures and challenges around Tom Cruise's life in Mission Impossible, as well as James Bond. So Mission Armored is all about the growth of armored vehicles in the UAE. There is a big growth now that we are seeing in the armored car market. And today I have an amazing guest with me, Tarek Hameidani, who is the CEO of the Armored Group or TAG Middle East. Tarek has been in this business for about 20 years. He was, previous to that, a salesman at Nestle and decided to make the move into armored cars in the defense business. It's so interesting and exciting because what's typically happening in the UAE is we're seeing more than 16,000 people move here in the last year or so because the UK tax regime has changed. There has been war and unrest in many parts of the Middle East around us, which has facilitated movement of a lot of wealth and money coming into our region. As a result of that, we also have a lot of VIPs and very special people who need protection and better cars and modeled cars. And that's why I think the armored car vehicle or segment is actually growing quite a lot. So today I hope is going to be an interesting discussion with Tarek about it. But before we leap into the discussion with Tarek, I wanted to talk about the fact that the global car market or the armored car market is growing to 60.7 billion by the end of 2025. So that is a huge leap and growth in just this car segment market. And there are players like TAG, like Nimir, like Street, like Armor Work, and many others who are coming into this segment and wanting to do more bespoke cars. So this means cars that are bulletproof, cars that have like night vision systems, cars that have very special tracking devices and obviously very advanced dash cams and things like this. So that's a whole segment that's actually growing. Obviously, this is SUVs for CEOs and high net worth individuals, for VIPs, government employees and heads of state, etc., or ex-heads of state who have actually moved into the region. So a very big and growing audience in the UAE for these type of armored car vehicles. And we'll now move to hear from Tarek with a whole bunch of questions that I'm about to ask him and some secrets of his trade that I hope that he can share with us. So what's really interesting also about the defense angle and the defense market is that Saudi Arabia has a whole vision 2050 that they're working towards. And generally the region knows that it can't be self-sustaining in the defense industry, obviously, because most of the manufacturers are European or American in terms of the defense angle. But there is a move and an element towards self-sufficiency and building Emirati vehicles and building things locally that would change the way the industry perceives the defense side. So I think that is one of the interesting and strong regional pushes because the Gulf does want to build a reputation in secure mobility. And the Gulf is now known to be one of the safest places on the planet as we speak. And as we know, a number of people are moving here, not only for the reasons of moving away from their tax regimes, but primarily because it is a safe haven or a safe place to bring your family members, have your kids studying here, etc. So that's quite a move. I mean, I'll give you an example as well. In Syria and some of the other regions, the average spend on SUVs and family protection is in the range of $200,000 a year, which is a significant amount of money if you look at what exactly they're spending money on. In Africa as well, the growing private sector wealth is demanding luxury level secure mobility and transport. And that's a great market again for the UAE and the Gulf, because what typically happens is that many of these SUVs are transformed in the UAE and facilities like that of TAG in the UAE, but then are exported out to different countries and geographies around Africa. Again, many of whose family members also live in the UAE and tend to work and study here whilst they have primary businesses or government appointments at home abroad. So there are so many angles to what's going on in creating a perfect geography, which is, the UAE around Europe, Africa, and Asia, the stability. And the other aspect, I think, is Why the UAE is because the business environment is very conducive to working. The ports are very conducive. So, for example, again, most of our defense clients would have significant stock coming in through the Jebel Ali port. In TAG's case, they're in Ras Al Khaimah. They have been in Ras Al Khaimah in the past. And then obviously we're looking at Kizad, which is the Abu Dhabi ports, which is a growing port, which is a world-class facility, the Hamria port, etc. So there are so many avenues of transportation and good ports and storage facilities available around the UAE that this also makes it very interesting. So let's speak to Tarek now. I've done enough talking. Tarek, thank you for joining us on Things Podcast. We've called this Mission Armored rather than Mission Impossible.
Mission
So
Armored.
it's all about you and your business and your work. So you started in sales and marketing at Nestle. So what made you take the leap into defense manufacturing, and how did that happen from like Nestle all the way to Armored Group?
It wasn't a leap into defense as much as it is getting away from what I didn't like. So I graduated and I joined Nestle, the biggest food company in the world, FMCG, and stayed there for 5 years from 2001 to 2006. And by 2006, I was a regional brand manager covering 9 countries. So it looked great on paper. But I wasn't happy, and I didn't realize how happy I was not until I left. In 2006, I think we were in a strategy meeting and we were talking about Nescafe, which was the brand I was managing. And our objective was, how do we make every fresh graduate, they leave college, they start their job, how do we make sure they start drinking coffee every day and build that habit, right? And then, because
Corrupting the world.
Not correct, well, it was not bad, but my question, like I started thinking, is like, what's in it for me? And now am I serving the world by having
Forcing
people
them
drink
to-
coffee every day, right? And then we have them add sugar and creamer because people in this region like sweet drinks, and then less sugar and less creamer. And it's like, I'm spending my life in Jebel Ali in a cubicle when the world's happening and doing something that didn't add value. And that's when I decided to leave. So it was
Okay.
more about leaving than about going into the defense
Right.
business. And when I left, I started dabbling into things. And a friend of mine told me about this great battery that we can sell and we can work with, and from the US. So I tried to do that. We did that for a whole year, and I didn't sell a single battery. But that was the entry into the defense business, because that battery, you can shoot it, and it was like a black box. It was a dry cell battery, and then you can use it to start a vehicle even after it's shot.
Right.
And then like, well, that's a good application for armored vehicles. And that friend was doing armored vehicles in the US, so it's like, why don't we start something here? And then after a year, it's like, that's it, I give up, I don't like Dubai. And he left. So I was left with this very small business with 4 people that was about to close.
Oh gosh.
But because I didn't have anything else to do, I was like, let me do this until I find out what I want to do.
Right.
And that was 2007. And the rest is history, Step by step, slowly, I grew it as a business, not as I want to be in the defense industry.
Right, sure. So when you launched was it 2009 when you launched
So in
TAG?
2009 is when I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. I signed
Okay.
a joint venture with one of my customers in the US, that was the Armored Group. And we launched as TAG, or the Armored Group. And that was the official launch. Because up to then we were working in a small workshop in Al Quwain that wasn't properly fit for that. So
Right.
2009, we say, is when the launch happened, correct?
So you've talked about your early days, but like I'm sure you had established players in the armored vehicle industry or segment by then when you were sort of entering. So what were the kind of challenges you faced, and tell us a little bit about how your competitors worked and where you saw the gaps.
Right. So if you remember, 2006, 2007 was the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And everything that was going to Afghanistan was coming from the US or the West. So the opportunity was to set up something in Dubai, because anyway, things were stopping in Dubai before they move on to Afghanistan by air freight or to Iraq.
Right.
So that's what's initially how it started. But because the industry was very new in the region, just to give you an example, we'd build an armored vehicle and we'd ship it like we'd ship any other vehicle. While today it's so regulated. So at the beginning, it was so infant that you just try and do things and see what works and see what wasn't work. In the region, there were no established players.
Right.
So we were one of the first to start here. And we kind of grew with the government regulations hand in hand since then to what it is today. The challenges were not industry specific as much as they were new business challenges, which
Right.
are, I start a business, you kind of do everything, right? You're the salesperson, you're the marketing person, you're the accountant, and then you hire someone, and they
Yeah.
do everything. And the second challenge that everyone faces is financial. Every end of the month is like, are we going to be able to pay salaries this month? Are we
Oh,
going to be able
gosh.
to pay? You know, those are the growing pains that teach you a lot about how to run business, but teach me a lot about myself. How do I react to stress? How do I react to challenges? How do I build those values that I want to grow my business into?
Sort of like a startup kind of vibe, really.
Which is very similar to a lot of startups, and the probabilities, what is it? 1 out of 10 will live past 3 years.
Yeah.
I had my first failure good with the batteries, so I checked that out, and then the second one, it's been going well.
I'm going to do another podcast on not failing but pivoting, because I
Right.
think failure is like overrated.
But that's exactly what it's
So
about.
maybe you can be on that one too.
Right, because you try something, and that's the mentality, because entrepreneurship is so romanticized, right? Everyone thinks the story is, I had this vision, and everyone told me don't do it, and I got a bank loan, and I went for it, and now I'm... But at the end of the day, it's so romantic, which is never the case. You try something, does it work? It doesn't work. What did I learn? I pivot a bit. Is this going to work? Now I know more about myself. I know about the business. And small improvements and adjustments as you grow.
Yeah.
And today, this is one of our biggest values, is continuous improvement. Because you're always tweaking a bit. It's not those mega events with a vision that builds a business. It's all about execution.
Yeah, it's all the small things that add up to the
Right,
whole piece.
and the repetition, and you need two things. You just need values and culture. But all these big visions and dreams, and I think it's nice to write books about, but in reality, it's all about the small little things we do every day.
Yeah, getting the job done. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. One step at a time.
Yeah. So tell me about that a little bit. What about contract wins? Like what, maybe there was a facility upgrade or a contract win or something that happened with your business that really said, okay, I'm in the right business, I'm staying in this, and this is my path.
There are a couple. The first one, I think, was around 2008, 2009, when we started with the Armored Group in the US. They were a customer, and they were giving us a lot of business, so we counted on them. And one of the contracts they gave us was for the US government. And in this little small workshop we had one office with one chair. So my partner, Bob, came from the US, and another gentleman, and me, and we're all salespeople. And then the representatives of the US government came, and there were 7 of them. And they had a mechanical expert, technical expert, shipping expert, legal for the contract. And the 3 of us are salespeople, right? And I remember we were sitting in this little office, and then we realized how much we need to be at that level, right? So it was a great learning experience. And they were so nice. They figured out how small we were, and they helped us a lot to deliver on that contract. So that was a great learning, how to operate with governments. But the second major one was for a security company in Iraq that we worked from the ground up. And then when we signed it, it was our biggest contract. And when we got paid, I remember looking at the bank statement, and I think that was the first 6-digit number I saw. It's like I saw the $1 million, 1.2 million, I think, you know. And it's like, wow, I'm a millionaire today.
This is one of those things where I'm not sure how much you can tell us, but tell us about your typical client and tell us a little bit about how the region is changing. One of the things I did in my intro was talk about the fact that there are so many high net worth individuals and ex-diplomats moving into the region who of course know there's a lot of safety here, and that's one of the big reasons they're moving here, also for the tax regime and the standard of living, etc. But obviously these are people who also are still probably ordering armored vehicles from you, what we call the high net worth individuals. And tell us, if whatever you can, in terms of interesting examples of some of your clients' stories or some of the crazy things they've asked you to do to their cars.
Right. So we have 5 manufacturing facilities, and each would focus on a certain product and a certain type of client. The ones that we operate in the region, they build the fleets. So our typical customer would be either a government, and that would be the Ministry of Interior, which is the police and security services, or the Ministry of Defense, which is the army and the military, and the NGOs, like the United Nations, and that go and operate in high-risk areas, like World Food Program in Sudan, or the migration programs in North Africa, that they need protection. We rarely supply to individuals, because the individuals would want a one unit that's high-end.
Right.
What we prefer to work with are the fleets. Now, it doesn't mean we don't. We usually do this either in the Germany facility or in the Canada facility. And of course, those people, the reason we don't like work with them much, because they come with a James Bond list, right? They watch the movie. And just so everyone
Batmobile, that's the one I want.
Right,
I want
right.
a Batmobile.
Because you watch these movies and people think the bullet would hit the car and fly off, it wouldn't scratch the paint, which is not the case. But we've done a lot. So we've done the smoke in the back. We've done the press the button and the nails would come out.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
then
gosh.
the electric shock on the handle. So if someone tries to open the door, you can give them a small electric shock. But those were more of fun things to do. But our focus is always the governments and the NGOs or United Nations.
Yeah, so law enforcement.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they require fleets.
Right.
And about the high net worth individuals in Dubai, that really doesn't benefit us because, first of all, they don't need it in Dubai.
It's too safe.
Yeah, you don't need it in Dubai, and they're not our customers. I mean, the only thing they did was we're struggling now with like everyone else with the Dubai traffic and the high, the increase in the costs of Dubai, housing and accommodation
Yes,
and traffic and
absolutely.
all this. But Dubai, and the reason we're here still, Dubai is like the shopping mall of Africa, right? So we work from here a lot with Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, and that's why you have it as a hub. Very few of our product goes to the UAE. It's all export. And me and you want to own an armored vehicle. In most of the world, we cannot. It's only, I think, the US is one of the very few countries that a citizen can own an armored vehicle. No,
Right.
you can have a gun, so probably you need an armored vehicle.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, exactly.
But that's the only country I know of. Actually, you can even buy a tank and drive it on the road, which I didn't know, as a private citizen, which just blows my mind.
Tell us about the change in regulation. Like when we all got here, like I got here about 30 years ago, there was hardly any regulation in most areas, and then everything grew, became more regulated. So how has that affected your industry?
So as I mentioned, when we started, an armored vehicle and a normal vehicle were treated
On
the
par.
same. Right, so you ship it with a VIN number like you do. And that grew. And one of the advantages of being in the UAE is that it's very advanced when it comes to regulation compared to the region. So just to let you know, before we contract with any government, we had to get the pre-approval that we can sit on the table with government X or government Y.
Okay.
And that's not selling, that's just sitting and discussing. So they
Right.
tell us, yes, you can work with this government. And this is usually, is this government on an embargo list, whether it's a United Nation, a US, or a local UAE embargo list. Once we sit with them, talk with them, they give us the list of what they want. Then we go back to the UAE government through the Ministry of Defense, and they say they want this list of vehicle with this specification. Is it okay to sign a contract? Once we sign the contract, we manufacture, and then before we ship, we get an export approval to ship. On the
right.
specific VIN numbers. The end user has to give the letter saying, yes, those vehicles are coming to us, and they'll be used by us in this capacity, and we will not sell or the gift to anyone else.
Right.
Because you need to trace how that is flowing. Now, this is a bit more of paperwork and time, but it's protecting us as builders, manufacturers also.
Of
because,
course.
God forbid, these vehicles end up being used in a terrorist operation, and it comes back to us that we've built it.
Yeah.
We'll be in trouble. So following this process is not only securing the government interest, it's also securing us as a manufacturer and a builder.
You raise an important point because if the Ministry of Defense has full visibility on what you're building, what you're importing, exporting, what contracts you have, what about the confidentiality element of working for other governments? It's just how it is, or?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, part of our contract is the confidentiality element.
Right.
Now, everything we discuss with the Ministry of Defense, that stays with the Ministry of Defense because they have it also from all the other builders. And once a year, they put all the builders, people in the industry, and there are regular discussions about the new policies and procedures.
Right.
One of the things the government did is now they have the Tawazun Industrial Park in Abu Dhabi. So they're trying to build a whole ecosystem around the defense industry, but it has to be also very, very well regulated also.
Yes.
So you have the builders, the suppliers sitting together in that thing, like the media, like the internet city and the media city, and now you have the defense complex that's in Tawazun.
I mean, Abu Dhabi's always been big on defense.
Right.
Like all the big contracts are signed there, all the big players are there.
Because it's the capital,
Yes.
and that's where the
budgets, I guess,
the budgets are, and that's where the HQ of the Ministry of Defense is.
Right.
Just like the United States, right? The police is more state to state. Just
Yeah.
like the UAE, it's more emirate to emirate.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the army and to the defense, that's a federal.
So this is quite interesting. Could you break it down a little bit more? Like what type of cars would you be doing for the government? What type of cars would you be doing for NGOs, for example? And do you also do armored like hospital vehicles, like ambulances and things like that?
So I'll put them into the categories. There are 5 categories. There's the civilian vehicles, and that's what we supply to NGOs and the UN. So all the white Land Cruiser you see the United Nations driving with the flag on them.
Yes.
So that's the stuff we build and supply. And this also goes to head of states, embassies, and security companies that help oil companies. So today, say ExxonMobil, they want to operate an oil well in the Nigeria or in Algeria. They want to send their engineers. As part of the contract and the life insurance that the companies provide, those people need to be transported in armored vehicles. So that's one. Second one is the cash in transit. So G4S, Transguard, exactly. By law, for example, in the UAE, if you have a certain number of cash or gold you want to transport from one place to the other, it has to be in one of those vehicles.
Okay.
Otherwise, you won't get the insurance, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second type, which is transporting gold, money, cash, and we use it in mining in Africa. So when you mine the material, you put it in one of those vehicles to transport it. Then the law enforcement, which is more police vehicles. And those are police, SWAT, tactical, anti-riot control, used by the police forces in a country.
Right.
The Ministry of Defense or the military vehicles, those are the big trucks that the soldiers use.
Yeah.
And just to let you know that we don't put guns and weapons on those. We're not licensed to do that. We just build the vehicle or the platform.
Okay.
The last one is the special projects like armored ambulances or command centers. So let's say there's a concert in the desert somewhere and there are going to be thousands of people there. So we build those vehicles that have the telecommunication equipment or the control units where police would sit because they need to secure the parameters and they have all the controls and the drone will fly from it and the radar will work on it.
Okay.
So those are the 4 categories we work with and we supply all 4.
So what about things like AI surveillance, remote defense systems, things like that? Are you able to, how is that growing? Like AI systems, obviously I'm sure that's advanced since 5 years ago even.
That's moving so fast that we decided we're not going to even touch it because it's just crazy how fast these things are moving. And some companies decided to dabble into that, but you have experts that working on something like facial recognition AI to be implemented in a vehicle, as an example. There's someone so focused only on this that they're going to be way ahead of us in this technology.
Right.
So what we decided as a company is that we are only going to provide the platform, which is the vehicle itself.
Right.
And that's not moving as fast. I mean, everyone talked about, I remember a few years back that I bought a vehicle 7 years ago and I was like, that's the last vehicle you build because then it's all going to be Uber style sharing. I mean, it's still there, right? The diesel engines are still there.
Yeah.
So it's not moving as fast as the technology. So we decided as a company, we're going to build the platform, but what we will do is we will lay the foundation for all the integration to happen. That's through the wirings, the cables, the mounting system. How can we make our vehicles so easy that when the client buys it, they can either put the anti-drone system or the drone launching mechanism or the cameras and the communication systems, where they can mount it in and out. And we work with experts in their field that we can propose, or the client can say, you know what, I need this technology in the vehicle. Yeah. And we work with the suppliers.
Yeah, it makes sense because you can't be everything to everyone. And
it goes back to when we started. That was a mistake. Again, all startups do. You just say yes to everything, and then until you realize you can't do it all. And then some of those projects you're losing money and time.
Yeah.
So we narrowed it down to, I think, 3 or 4 basic platforms that we can do adjustments on the platform, but we're not going to do things that is not our expertise.
And what about the whole electric versus petrol/diesel? I know diesel is not such a thing. I mean, do you see a move like of governments, NGOs into electrical vehicles, or is that a move, again, going back to petrol? Because I think we saw the buzz for a while, right?
So 5 years ago or 6 years ago, everyone contacted us. The US government had a huge budget for R&D for electric vehicles and defense that they were going to give to all the companies. And everyone started running around and working with it. And now it went back. So no one talking about the electric. And there are a couple of reasons for it. One of it is the safety. You know, those batteries, once they catch fire, you need 4 or 5 days for the fire to
We've had a couple of accidents in the UAE that we've witnessed, unfortunately. Young drivers who've lost their lives with the blow up of the battery.
It's a problem for the firefighters. I know in Germany now they have this big liquid box where they have to pick up a Tesla and dump it in this. It's something crazy like that. So with defense, the environmental aspect is not a priority. When you're at war or when you need to go catch the bad guy, I mean, you don't want to care that
Cut
much.
corners, charge your battery before you...
True. And it's becoming a problem in places like Europe when we want to supply vehicles to head of state and then you have to meet the emission quota. It just becomes a bit
Too
crazy.
much.
So yes, 5 years ago everyone was moving this direction and then all of a sudden they took a sharp turn and realized it's not for the industry. We're sticking to combustion engines.
Do you do much work with Saudi? Because everyone talks about the Saudi Vision 2050. I always feel personally the UAE is on its own trajectory.
Right.
Like it just moves forward despite vision, no vision,
Right.
too much vision.
So Saudi and UAE are leading
The charge.
what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I think UAE is slightly ahead, but Saudi has bigger dreams on paper and a lot of more money on paper, right?
Yeah.
So I think Saudi's defense budget was $80 billion this year.
Yeah. I saw the
Which is
numbers. I was
huge,
like,
which is
what?
crazy. And it's not only the number itself, it's 7 or 8% of their GDP. So just to put it in perspective, US has the biggest budget, 260, 270, and that's 3 or 3.5% of GDP. So Saudi is the third country in the highest defense budget worldwide as a percentage of GDP. The first and the second country are Ukraine and Israel, for obvious reason, because those two countries are at war.
Right.
Right? So Saudi is the highest not at war country with a budget. And of course, when people read that, there was a gold rush to Saudi. That's what we want to do. And the interesting thing is that they said as part of the vision, by 2030, they want 50% of that to be spent in Saudi. So today, if I want to go sell the Saudi government, which they're still buying, if you remember the Trump and MBS when they sat and Trump picked up that paper and it's like there's submarines and airplanes and that's $1 billion. It's like you have a lot of money, which is fine. And I think they're saying, yes, we will buy this stuff on a condition that by 2030, we have to pay Saudi companies to build and develop. So for us, when we want to sell the Saudi government, there's the offset programs, and then we have to transfer the technology, which I think is great.
Yeah, offset's been there from the 80s.
In
honestly.
Dubai, actually, I think Mubadala started as
before it was
offset.
Mubadala.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember advising on some of that, and I didn't understand any of it as a junior associate.
Which is very smart. Yeah. So you can take money and give products, but what are you also giving to train, to teach, to bring the technology?
Exactly.
This being said, we're not doing business in Saudi as of yet because of that huge influx. And everyone wants something. And it is like the gold rush. And people that made money during the gold rush were people that sold pots and pans, not people that were doing the gold stuff, right? Our model has always been, I go back to long-term agreement, consistent, steady. Because of this rush now, we still get calls a lot about Saudi companies that they've just been set up. And everyone's uncle is
connected.
The sheikh so-and-so. And he can get us everything in the world. You just have to bring the technology. And the company was set up 2 months ago. So for me, it's too noisy and too loud. I'd rather focus on those long-term agreements that we have and grow from there.
I saw that you've recently done a negotiation course at Harvard Business School.
Yeah.
Are you trying to compete with me?
Funny enough, when I saw it, I saw lawyer. So many lawyers do that. It's part of, again...
What's going on, Tarek?
I go back to the values, right? Continuous improvement. And I just like to always, teach and learn. And it's part of the company culture. Yeah, just now I'm doing a 9-year Harvard course with YPO. As you know, I'm a YPO member and just been approved for that. So it's 9 years. You go every year once for 1 week to Harvard. So
yes. I have quite a lot of other YPO member clients who really enjoyed that because more than what they got from Harvard Business School, I think it's the relationships that they build.
So it's learning through relationships. That's one of the core values of
those
YPO.
Case studies that basically I have no clue what is this case study. So I just need to rely on other people to be smarter than me in class.
Well, and it goes back to execution. It's about applying it because it's all exciting when you learn it, but come to apply it, this is where the challenges start to happen.
So which is the most difficult country contract negotiation that you find? I mean, I do another series on negotiations with different cultures, and my next podcast is actually going to be China, because I think the Chinese are again starting to like spread their tentacles everywhere, and they're difficult people to understand and know how to like win a point with. You think you won till you leave the room, and then they backtracked everything most of the time. So in your experience, also having done the course, what do you think is the most difficult negotiation you've ever had?
So it's not the negotiation that's difficult, it's the stories and the talking and the going back and forth. I like working with Americans. Straight to the point, yes or no, black or white, and it's done. When it's done, it's done. And the emotions, it's not personal, right? It's purely business, which I've always liked, and this is how I like to operate.
Yeah.
The Eastern side of things, where you sit and drink the coffee and drink the tea and talk about the family, and I don't want to tell you no, so I'll drag you a bit. I just have a difficulty with that. Some of the challenges is Egypt for me, because some countries have the budget. You go through this whole process, and then something happens at the end. A lot of times when we did, I'd give Egypt an example, there was no budget in the first place. It was just the dragging and the talking and the dragging and and discount and how much. It's like you're trading. That was difficult. But hopefully we have something now that might happen with Egypt. Hopefully we'll change that.
Yeah, I had the Libyans once. So I love this story where I had the Libyans and we walked into the room with the Libyans and they basically just stood up and shouted at us. They just shouted. And over themselves at us. And we were like, what are you actually shouting about? We just walked into the room, but it put you on the back foot.
Right.
So you wanted to like please, like the human nature to please and agree with somebody who's shouting at you because we're non-confrontational social creatures by nature. So that was like a big learning for me. Like, reach early. If there's Libyans involved, reach early, be there before the shouting.
And shout first. But this is one of the advantages we have. So I'm Lebanese. I partnered with a company in the US and I'm married to an American, but we have also facilities in Germany and in Canada. So
correct.
That's one of the advantage of knowing how to navigate things from the cultural side, because especially doing business, as you mentioned, we don't do a lot of business with China, but yeah, absolutely. Like in Japan, they came once and they visited the facility and they didn't give us the deal. They said the floor was not clean enough.
Right.
Which is like, how can you do that? But then I remember to Qatar and watched Japan playing Germany. Fascinating. The Japanese crowd, they were just chanting the whole time. The game finished. They all had small plastic bags and they cleaned after themselves and they put it in a bag and they took their trash with them. And then it hit me, it's like, okay, that guy came and he was looking at our floor because it's part of their business culture. And this is how you learn. Okay, when Japanese come, it's all about
Cleanliness, presentation.
Presentation, exactly. Yeah. And then you can talk about the business.
Yeah, but I think that's the interesting bit about also having a business in the UAE is you have to adapt all the time.
Right.
And that's why I think it makes us a little bit special, even if I say so myself.
Look, I agree. Especially if we go back to one of the countries where everyone's from the same nationality there in the production, you see how it's one direction of that.
And then you have labor unions and all of that kind of other problems.
I think, I'm not a big fan of it. Because of the system we operate, we're just all open book. Everyone talks about it. So my financials are open to all my team. That talk, that discussion, that agile, it's just all out there. So you don't need these unions and reviews and monthly meetings and annual, you did well and now I'm going to slap you or I'm going to give you a treat. I think that's two 80s and 70s.
Exactly. And is it easy to recruit in your business? Do you need a particular level of qualified engineer, skill, mechanic?
So one of the things, because I don't come from a military or engineering background, when I started, I've always felt everyone else knows more. Right. So I made sure I surround myself, not hire, but surround myself with people that know more in every field and that I can reach out to. But today, I'm really proud that no one in the company is an expensive hire. And what I mean by expensive, you go to a competitor and you get a high-level person.
Right.
Everyone grew from within.
Okay.
And we have this program where now we only hire people that have the values and they want to grow from within.
Right.
And those are the best people we can have. So the answer is no, because you can always find people with the right values. That's easier.
Yeah.
We don't look for the skill. The challenge we're having today is in the US.
Okay.
And Germany to a certain extent, but the US is, the work culture is, I don't know what happened after COVID, but I feel now no one wants to work.
Right.
There's a lot of entitlement. And now with the new government, the whole ICE, immigration, and those are the people that are willing to work harder.
Yeah.
They're not there, so it's pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think we're about 2-3 years away from like cleaning up all of the economic impact that all of this is going to have, maybe even longer.
Right, and we don't know the end of it yet, but it's just the ethics of work is not there anymore. But if you look at Southeast Asia, it's just phenomenal. People are here to work and make money, and then when you see that money is going to families and putting kids in school, and as I go back to the improvements,
Yes.
and those guys want to learn. So anyone that wants to
Yes.
do any course is covered by the company, as long as you show what you want to do it and why you want to do it. So seeing this happen, it just brings a lot of fulfillment, at least to me
Right.
personally. And,
Right.
you know, fulfillment is something you only get when you succeed in business. You're happy and excited and proud. All this happens from the business. But the fulfillment aspect only comes when you're helping someone else.
When
And
you see
seeing
them
that-
grow.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think I'm at this stage now where I just love seeing that.
Yeah.
And we're all about hiring for values and growing within, which makes it easier.
I couldn't agree more. First of all, thank you for doing this podcast with us. Any last tips that you have for my startup clients? Because many of them, I tell the hare and the tortoise story, where some of them are going too fast. They won't listen to me to slow down. And the others are going so slow that I don't think they'll ever find their path. So I've split them up into the hares and the tortoises now, literally. But any tip from your life experiences you would say for my startup clients?
So again, I started with this, and I'll say it's all about execution. Like, it's a loop of cycle. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna test it. If it succeeds, great. If it failed, why did it fail? What I'm gonna do about it? And those small tweaks and improvement, but it has to be a part of the culture of the continuous cycle. Ideas and opportunities will always come and go. I mean, I don't think any business was successful because they had this amazing idea that no one had. I don't think there are that many unique ideas. And opportunities will always be there, and the downturn will always be there. But as long as that loop of, this is what I'm gonna do about it, I own it, this is how I'm gonna improve it, I'll test it again. And if it's a complete failure, I'm gonna divert and try it again. And
Yeah.
there's those small, subtle baby steps movement.
Yeah, I have one last question for
Sure.
you. I always think that a life cycle for a successful business is sort of 10 years. If I reach the 10-year mark and I am not successful at what I'm doing, I need to change or I need to pivot or something like that. But the world is moving so fast today. Is that 10 years, 5 years now, 2 years? I mean, what do you think a good timeline is for a startup to know whether they're on the right path or not?
So I don't know what you mean by successful, but I think if a business is not making money,
Yeah.
they're gonna fail pretty quick, because anything else you can adjust. But and regardless if, I don't know, you have the husband or the wife or the mommy or the papa giving the money.
Yeah.
If the business is not making money, that's a failure.
I call that the Gulf subsidies.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
are you
it's-
Gulf subsidized? Or?
Continuously coming. I think 10 years is way too long. And you know, there's the S curve, and then how often do you want to jump that S curve? You should know pretty quick if the business is successful, and the cash element, because people can talk a lot and promise you everything. Like you come, I sell you a pitch, would you buy my product? I love your idea and I'll do it. There's only one way you can find if someone will buy your product, if they pay for it.
Right.
So cash is the biggest indication of the business is on the right trajectory or not, and not that we're going to lose money for the first 10 years and then we're going to keep funding it until it picks up. I think those
Yeah.
are also very unique. So I would look at the cash, and cash will definitely not give you 10 years. And yes, things are changing too fast. What is it? VUCA? Volatile, uncertain, chaotic.
Everything
and it's just
in the
getting worse
middle.
and worse.
Yeah. So well done for hanging
Thank
in
you.
there in these tough times.
Thank you. We'll see how the next 10 years are.
For us lawyers, it's fine, right? The
Right.
tough times bring different
And
challenges.
the downturn.
And
Yeah.
success of our clients brings, fantastic challenges. So generally, I think I probably chose a decent enough profession. I'd never be a billionaire, but it's all right.
Yeah. Billionaire in the mind. That's what's important.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.